If I was at an interview at Bloomberg, I could say that what I've learned through my passion for fantasy football, statistical modelling, predictions, it's actually very similar to the financial market. I mean, would that, with my 2-2, would that get me through your application process?
If we asked what a recent financial news story that you've been following was, and you spoke about, putting Harry Kane as triple captain, probably not. But if you can,
I think we've got a Spurs fan there, Chris. Suddenly, Harry Kane.
Hello, I'm Chris Lisserman, and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In each episode, we talk about how to spark something in work and life, from how to spark culture, to how to spark development, to how to spark absolutely blockbuster guests. Welcome to the show.
Here they are. I mean, this is the best guests we've ever had.
Aren't they great?
Yeah.
We've got MJ, or Michael.
Yep.
2 names.
Good to be here.
Michael
Fantastic.
brackets MJ.
Open bracket, MJ, close bracket. And
any combination of that, but great to be here. Thank you for having us.
coming.
Yeah, no.
Pleasure to be with you here today. And Tara as well.
hello everyone. Thank you so much.
No brackets required. Not one guest,
required.
but 2. Very excited to get into our topic for today, Jonna.
Tell us all about it then, Chris. The topic is big.
Yeah, we're going to think about how to spark mindset, particularly thinking about our careers. And with the 2 of you in the room, we're going to be thinking about early careers a lot as well. So do you want to explain a little bit about your background, your role? Also, how do you know this guy?
Oh, that's good. Tell us what you do first.
Yeah.
Okay, so I head up the early careers team at Bloomberg. Been doing it about a year now. Previous to that, various roles in HR, but loving the early careers space. Love the energy and just helping young people. Just generally, take that all important step at this point. How do I know Jonna? I was starting out in my career at the body shop, and I was an apprentice, and Jonna was the summer intern, and it was summer of '98. Yeah,
that's really not that far away. I mean, it's not the summer of '98 is 25 years ago.
It sounds like less time has passed than that.
How do you look so well and I look so bald?
Don't judge your wellness through that way, but
yeah. And we should also think, how do you know Tara?
Yeah.
Tara's on my team. She's an up-and-coming recruiter. But yeah, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. I work in the same space as MJ. My role is a talent coordinator. I work on full-time hire interns, but also on the apprenticeship side of things as well.
And when you guys say the apprenticeship and the apprentice, that's not the TV series.
No, sadly not. It's a very exciting program within Bloomberg. We're hiring between 50 and 60 apprentices in September across the entire organisation, from finance, data, technology, HR support, among many and many others.
As I understand it, Bloomberg is also one of London's most incredible early careers organisations, because you've got hundreds of people, apprentices, interns, grads. What is going on there? Why are you so much into these young talents?
For us, I mean, it's like we've built a whole business on it. I think ultimately you can bring people in, develop them. The first couple of years, you're giving them intense experiences, and then you're sending them out. I think one of the things about Bloomberg is they're selling our product after a year or so, out with clients, out on the floor of the trading, wherever they are, and they get a lot of experience very, very early on in their career.
So you're getting them into the front end of the job and into the meaty part early on. So we were going to find out who had an internship here. Chris, did you do an internship?
I did do an internship, yeah, with the charity in Oxford. I was doing a bit of graphic design, which was what I studied, and then a bit of getting out into universities and helping teams within universities.
So, Michael, you mentioned the body shop. How did you get? What was your internship there?
Well, I did 2 weeks work experience for free, and then I found myself working there 7 weeks for about free.
Only 7 weeks?
Yeah, 7 weeks. And then I got an apprenticeship, which was a massive opportunity for me. I was 19 years old, looking for something where I could learn and study at the same time. But, I mean, apprentices back then were a little bit different. It was for people that didn't do so good at school. And so that was me, and looking for an opportunity. Whereas now, some of the apprentices out there are amazing. Some of the apprenticeships, getting an apprenticeship is almost as hard as getting into some top universities now. There's some great programs. It's completely changed 25 years on.
And Tara, what was your story?
My story is I interned at Bloomberg, so I literally have never had a corporate job anywhere else. I interned in my second year at university. I interned in a sales team, which was part of Bloomberg New Energy Finance, so renewable research arm of the organisation. I loved it, but I went back to university, and when I graduated, I rejoined the team that I now work in, which is the team that organised my internship, as opposed to the team in which I interned in. But that was my journey to Bloomberg.
So you did an internship and then got a job in the same organisation.
Yes.
And that's excellent. Chonna, did you do an internship?
Yeah, John.
Yes, I did.
Did you do an internship?
I went to the Body Shop as well, and I worked with MJ, and I was in my second year of university. But in this episode, we're particularly looking at one part of the whole process of getting a job. We're looking at the mindset in the build-up, and I guess it's quite easy, isn't it, to think, well, there's the technical part, there's writing an application, and there's doing an internship, and there's you're going to interviews, all those things. All that's great, but before any of that, what's going on in here as you approach these things, you might be doing your finals as well, or like me, you might need a job for financial reasons. Some people are thinking about going on a gap year, but there's the mindset, and I guess that's what we're interested. You're professionals in this field, you know how to navigate that process from the corporate employer point of view. But what would Bloomberg's advice be to people who are thinking about applying for a job, people who are looking at which direction of all the directions they could go in? Should they be nervous? Should they be panicking? Should they be confident? Like, how would you advise people? Tara, you've been through this most recently. You got your internship. Did you like it at Bloomberg?
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think thinking about what you want to do and maybe not having a job title in mind, but types of tasks you want to be doing. If you want to be working with customers, if you want to be working in a really individual environment, if you want to be working in a very collaborative environment, working those things out early on can help narrow down your search, but also work out a little bit more what type of environment or culture or company you want to be in the future. For me, as I mentioned, I interned, but the team itself wasn't where I returned to, but the company culture was what brought me back. And so I think there are obviously really important things to think about when you come to a job, and each job is going to have different requirements. But actually, the wider picture and where you see yourself in the future is also a huge thing to consider.
That's really interesting. So you were saying that rather than pick an industry, pick a job title, even be that specific, and sometimes we can be, it's actually about what kind of task do you want to do, what kind of job, are you people-focused, are you task-focused, understanding yourself maybe a little bit more.
And the culture.
Yeah.
And do you think, Michael, you've had a long career, distinguished career. Do you think it really matters which direction you go in at the start? I mean, you could say the journey is as important as the destination. So what happens if you take a bit of a wrong turn up front and go off in a bit of the wrong direction? Is it unrecoverable if you set off on the wrong foot? I'm thinking it could be quite nerve-wracking if you feel going into this process that if you make a mistake now, the rest of your life can define you. How would you advise people?
Well, I think you've got to just take each experience for what it is, right? Every direction that I've taken in my career has been an opportunity to connect with people, to learn from other people, to learn what I like, what I don't like. What I thought I liked when I was 19-year-old apprentice, MJ in brackets, was very different to what I now realise I like. So I'm still learning that now.
What did you like then?
I think I just liked, I thought working in an office was not for me, because I just thought it was filing. And I remember, realising that it was actually about collaborating with people, working in a team, actually creating something. And so actually, I didn't even know that before I started working in an office. So that was pretty basic. I had basically low expectations in that sense. But
and just for clarity, what is filing? I've never heard of that.
You never had to do that.
Done any filing, Tara?
Never done.
Do you know what it
filing.
is, though?
I have an idea of what it is.
I did a lot of filing on my work experience, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, loved it. Organisation.
one of my first tasks at the Body Shop with work experience was rejecting work experience requests. That felt great.
Oh,
4 weeks into work experience, signing off letters of rejection. Yeah.
There's another worrying kind of realization though here, that if you failed to get a work experience, or you couldn't get the internship or the job you wanted, you could take that quite personally, couldn't you? And think, I'm just not good enough. But actually, it might just be a work experience person. Like how these companies make their decisions about who to get in. when you're looking then for internships or placements at Bloomberg, how do you professionalize that process so that it's fair and so that not just necessarily the best candidates get a role, but the right balance of candidates get a role?
So when it comes to the application stage, there are certain things that we don't consider as, flags to not hire someone. So someone's level of their degree, if whether they've got a first or a 2-1, that's not going to be the reason we hire or don't hire someone.
Wait a minute. So you're saying I don't even need to get a first. So I could be really anxious. I haven't got the right qualifications. I don't need a first or necessarily a 2-1. If I've got a 2-2, that can be fine. So I shouldn't be anxious. That seems to be quite clear.
I think anything that you can do above your degree is actually going to really help you stand out. So part-time work, society involvement, starting a blog or a podcast that you have something that you have a passion about, they can really help you to stand out and can actually make you more aligned with the job than your studies alone.
It's interesting, isn't it? I've actually heard, the only time I've ever heard the level of a degree mentioned is when someone's saying, actually, I see a first as you didn't do enough social things at university or you didn't pursue that interest.
I want to say though, Chris, that we don't now want to make the people who've got firsts insecure.
We don't.
Do you also hire people that do have firsts?
Yeah, of course we do. So it depends on the candidate and their full CV, but not just their degree. But of course, many of the people we are hiring are people with firsts, with 2-1s, with more academic backgrounds.
And just to ask, so you're saying also some things on your CV that could help you get noticed, like having a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
How are Chris and I getting on? Could we get in?
Do you speak German?
Ja, ein bisschen.
If you speak German, maybe.
Ich möchte arbeiten mit Bloomberg.
Fantastisch.
Hired.
What about those other things? I'm interested, like travel on a CV. That good?
Travel is something that isn't going to, I think, make or break an application. I think if it's something that you want to do, definitely do it, because you don't want to be in a job 3 months and then think, I really want to leave and go traveling now. Because, you're in your training period, you're settling into the role. Even if you're 6 months down the line, there's always going to be a reason not to go traveling once you've started. So if you have the financial situation that you can go traveling before you start your job, I would say do it. It's not going to mean you're going to guarantee that job when you come back, but it is going to mean you're more settled and ready to start work, I think.
Do you agree, Mike? Could you say scratch the itch when you've got it, or do you think maybe just go straight for a job?
I think if you've got an itch, you've got to scratch it when it comes to traveling. But I don't think it really. I think it's just an individual choice. I don't think traveling or not traveling is good or bad or neutral. Like I think if you want to do it, do it. And there are certain points in your life where it's a good time to do it. At Bloomberg, and like a lot of companies, we're hiring all year round. So like that there is a choice to kind of delay, and then the jobs are still there, or you just wait another year for the next round to come around. Or you get a little bit of experience. More and more, it's not just about graduates; it's about people that, who got a second job coming in. So it's not just exclusively about graduates or apprenticeships.
Yeah.
You can pick up all sorts of experiences.
What I'm hearing is a lot of the dilemmas that might go on inside our heads when we're trying to think about our career. Actually, it is just in our heads. Whether to go travelling or not, employers don't really mind. Whether it's not binary, September's jobs, they could be March, they could be April. It doesn't matter if we didn't get the right degree. So let's say we've got these things on board. What are the other dilemmas that you think, you experience speaking to these people every day, what other dilemmas do people have and concerns when they're thinking about applying for a job at the moment?
I think knowing what the job really is, because there's only so much you can find out online and in videos and in kind of on company websites. And so one thing I would always say, if you can, is those early engagement, early insight programs in your first year or before you start university in year 13 and year 12, those insights can help you work out a lot of things, because you're not going to be able to experience every single job in the world, but it can give you an idea of to what you do and what you don't like, and that can help shape your decisions as you kind of work out full-time roles when you graduate.
What work experience did you do, Chris?
Work experience. I did a graphic design work experience placement,
which is familiar. This is the second one of those.
Before I'd done my graphic design degree, before I'd even chosen to do that, I did the placement, and I thankfully got something that was yes, I do want to do this. Now, not everyone gets that, and I think more often than not, work experience is okay, no, I've ruled out one thing I definitely don't want to do ever again.
I went to the Mullard Space Science Laboratory for my work experience.
Did you? How was that?
It was really good. I was working on a satellite that was going to be shot into space about 10 years later. And so I kept track of that satellite. When I say I was working on it, it sounds like I was at anything to do with it. I held a piece of paper for a guy who was working on it.
Did you make tea for the guy who was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a bit like you said about ruling things out, actually, it made me think, do you know what? I thought I wanted to do a kind of sciencey, physicsy kind of job. It's like, actually, I like people. I don't really want to be writing code and trying to program a code on a satellite. And the other thing that confirmed to me years later that I was absolutely right not to take that job, when they launched the rocket, it didn't have any people flying the rocket. It was just the rocket and the satellite. Guess what happened to the rocket?
Boom.
Yeah. So that guy that I worked with spent 15 years creating a satellite to survey space plasma, and then it blew up on launch.
All for nothing.
Yep.
My work experience was 2 weeks work experience at the Police Academy in Sydney, Australia, New South Wales Police Academy. Did really well, although I did get some feedback that I got lost a couple of times, which I thought was a little bit harsh.
Did you arrest anybody?
No, but my favourite was sort of driving around in the police car. It was fantastic couple of weeks, but didn't work out that way. But not, again, it's just an experience of something that you do or don't want to do, and that's the point. I think just picking up on one of the things you were talking about earlier, I think it's like I'm mentoring someone at the moment who's about to go into university, right? And a lot of the conversation I have with them is about, pick something that's you want to study, pick something you're interested in, and yes, focus and work hard. But while you're on the lay, what other experiences are you getting? Who are you meeting? As Tara says, what societies are you a part of? What are you doing outside of university in terms of work? How do those skills relate? Because I think one of the mistakes that students, or whether that's A-level students wanting to get apprenticeships or university students wanting to get grad jobs, is they get overthinking about I must do this and build this knowledge, whereas actually what employers need is the underlying skills that you're trying to build. Like, how do you become a communicator? How do you collaborate? How do you become a team player? All these things are out there for you to do in multiple different ways. Yeah. So you've got to have a 2-track kind of university life.
They're all the kind of things you might list on a CV: team player, good communicator. But what have you actually done to back that up and
100%.
grow those skills?
And how can you demonstrate it? So what examples can you bring into an interview, or can you bullet point on your CV that prove that, rather than you just saying, oh yeah, I'm a brilliant team player.
Just like everyone else.
Maybe what we're saying, this is just going round in my mind. I love a bit of wordplay. But it's very easy to spend time thinking, are you ready for your job? And that would be ticking off a list of things. Are you ready? Yeah, I've got degree, tick, societies, tick, traveling, tick, location, check. But the real question is, are you ready for the job? Are you actually ready?
Yeah.
And I guess that's partly what you guys are saying also about when you're heading towards the employment market. It's good to be ready with all the things that you need, but the deeper part of it is actually, are you ready to join the workforce, to just leap into it?
But I think it's easy for you, to be ready after a quarter of a century in work is easier to say than students who are thinking and doubting whether they're ready. I think my message to people, around mindset is recognize what you're picking up around you. Even if it's just interactions with, colleagues who you're studying with, you are picking up those skills. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback I give, and this isn't just relevant to Bloomberg, probably relevant to anything you're interested in terms of bridging your studies at whatever level that is to work, is how are you creating an interest? Because that's going to help you translate what you're learning in a textbook or online. Right? Quarter of a century of work here, people.
Yeah. Just get that textbook out of the filing.
I think they're learning from TikTok these days.
What you're learning in university to the real world, and you cannot just pick that up because you've applied for a job. You have to, the biggest piece of feedback I give is if you're interested in something, make it a bit of a hobby, learn something about it each day, listen to a podcast, watch YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, but there's so much content out there for you to do that. So there's no excuse anymore. But actually, unless you actually grow that day by day, you can't just turn it on for, in a moment, just because 2 days before you've got an interview or something. So I think you've got to try to create pockets of interest and then invest in yourself in that sense, outside of your studies.
Tara, what were your interests when you were at university?
Sustainability was the thing I was very passionate about at university. So that very nicely linked to where I interned. So the Energy Society was one of the societies I joined, and they had speakers coming from different renewable research firms and different renewable research companies who were creating things like wind turbines. And they would talk about some of the work that they were doing and some of the research that they were working on. And you could learn so much from those people. But as well as that, you need to be reading and you need to be kind of keeping up to date with news outside of that. So I was always subscribed to lots of newsletters and keeping up, there were some apps that I could use as well. But basically just ensuring that if I was having a conversation with someone, I had questions to ask because I understood the part of the wider context.
I read a lot of the newspapers. People might say I'm just laying in bed scrolling my phone, but really I'm reading the news. So being informed about a passion like the environment, sustainability, or current affairs, or financial markets, the economy, are all of these things going to be helpful? They've got to be an interest, you're saying? Yeah,
but you've got to get a rounded view of things. So you can't just read one source or just look at it at one level. Like if you're going in for an interview somewhere, you've got to take the person you're having a conversation with on a journey. Like we're back to journeys, like how do we take them, how do you take them, if you're talking, big thing right now, cost of living crisis, inflation. Everybody knows that if you read something around that. But if you're interested in it, you've got to take that down a few levels. You've got to talk about what inflation is. What effect does that have on different industries? On, how is that feeding through to what's happening in tech right now, for example? And you've got to tie all that together to demonstrate not just what you've learned in the classroom, but what you've actually learned trying to bridge that into the real world.
Yeah, what have you implemented as well? And maybe comes back to what Tara was saying about, can you actually show that you can use these skills and you have used these skills to deliver something?
I was out for breakfast this morning with a friend who works in financial markets. Tara, what were you listening to or reading on the way into work this morning?
I was listening to a podcast called My Therapist Ghosted Me with the two Irish comedians.
That's good. So you were learning to laugh and being entertained and getting yourself in a good mindset for the working day. MJ, what were you reading on the tube in this morning or listeking to?
I was actually listening to Sparks, of course.
Just ding, 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 the right answer.
Preparing for this, catching up on that content.
Well, a bit like watching Brighton, but then needing to go on the pitch. Here you are playing the game. It's good fun, isn't it? Chris, were you playing Candy Crush this morning? Did you cycle in, or were you just
no Candy Crush? I did get the train, but it was mainly catching up on the football stories. End of the season.
I also invest a lot of time in the football stories, but we've been playing fantasy football this year. I've got some bad news to you. I'm not going to continue next year.
Are you not?
But on a serious point, having an interest. If I was at an interview at Bloomberg and I was talking about that, I could say that what I've learned through my passion for fantasy football, statistical modelling, predictions, it's actually very similar to the financial markets. You're trying to guess what's going to happen in the future and make decisions now so that you can get an upside in later weeks, even though events are unpredictable. I mean, would that, with my 2-2, would that get me through your application process?
If we asked what a recent financial news story that you've been following was, and you spoke about, putting Harry Kane as triple captain, probably not. But if you can,
I think we've got a Spurs fan there, Chris. Suddenly, Harry Kane.
Probably not great timing, to be honest.
He scored at the weekend.
A great season. Yeah.
So that is on all seriousness. So we're getting an insight here that you would ask about a financial news story, and you would ask relevant topics. And you must meet all kinds of people who are then trying to answer those questions. Tell us the difference between someone who you think, I'd like to progress with their application, versus someone that you think, it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, so actually the inflation example is a really common one. So if it's a financial focused role, it's likely there will be something about, recent news stories or something that you're keeping up to date with. And a lot of people might say, inflation it's just reduced. So it's, the UK is just reduced down to around 8.47, I think it was this morning, or something like that. That's great, but that's not enough. So we need to understand, what does that mean and what is the impact of that? And, if thinking about the financial markets, what's that going to have on the FTSE 100 or what's it going to have on the stock markets? Beyond just the news story headline, what does that really mean? And people who can explain the impacts are people who are showing that insight and the fact that they have done their additional research. And you can see their interest and knowledge. And it needs to be an interest. If you're going to be doing financial analysis for 8 hours of every day. You need to have an interest there.
Is it that you're looking for a genuine interest rather
Definitely.
than just remembering a stat or
Exactly.
having an opinion?
Yeah, exactly. And I think reading one news story isn't going to be able to give you that authentic interest, whereas keeping up to date with things over a prolonged period of time, that does showcase interest, and you can really communicate that in an effective way.
I think you can see quite clearly when something has become a part of someone's kind of interest and being versus I've just picked up a website yesterday talking about inflation. It's very, very difficult to fake that because you actually get your own personal passion into it. You can see that a mile off. Yeah.
We're coming to the end of our podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on as guests. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for
And
having us.
Jonna, thank you once again.
It's been a real pleasure. And I tell you, it's really fascinating that we work with all kinds of different organizations, but Bloomberg's passion for their own business and for what you can do if you work there. I mean, we've met some of the incredibly talented people here. We've got some of the incredibly talented people here.
You only pointed to one of us then. Yeah.
But
Towards in the general
but
direction
you
of both
also,
of you.
I mean, we discussed it a little bit earlier. Mike Bloomberg, what you've built as an organization, it has to be one of the most impressive organizations in the world. There isn't really another massive player that does what you do. You've done it so well, and no wonder you've stayed there for so long. And Tara, you've got a great career ahead of you as well as everything you've already done. We would like to have you back on the Sparks podcast. Would you come again?
Absolutely.
I'm in.
Yes,
Brilliant.
they've
We
done
love
it.
that.
Excellent.
All right.
So we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Goodbye.
See you soon. Don't miss the next episode.
The way you say it is almost as important as what you're saying, because
Knowledge is no longer power. All these things that we're talking about are not about the knowledge that we picked up, but about the skills we picked up while we were picking up that knowledge.
Thanks for watching this video by Interactive Workshops. Give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Click through to here or here to watch another video by Interactive Workshops.